Hello everyone, and welcome back to another video. This is the 5th episode of the story, where Might Guy trades Neji and Tenten for Naruto and Hinata. Can he turn this motley crew of misfits into a team of geniuses? Or will he be compelled to stop wearing spandex for good? Remember to like, share, and subscribe to the channel after watching the video. So, let's begin. Hello everyone, and welcome back to another video. This is the 5th episode of the story, where Might Guy trades Neji and Tenten for Naruto and Hinata. Can he turn this motley crew of misfits into a team of geniuses? Or will he be compelled to stop wearing spandex for good? Remember to like, share, and subscribe to the channel after watching the video. So, let us begin. Tazuna had been 2 awkward dinners before. But this was ridiculous. After the battle at the bridge, the 2 groups of ninjas were taken back to Tazuna's house to receive medical attention. The Konoha Shinobi checked out okay with nothing but scratches and a couple of deep cuts. Naruto wasn't injured at all. Zabuza had a few cracked ribs and some major bruising, but it was nothing he couldn't handle. Haku was the one in the worst condition. On top of his arms being broken, and numerous cuts and gouges, he had suffered internal damage to his lungs. He had finally woken up 5 minutes before dinner was being served, and at Guy's insistence, the ex-Kiranin stayed for it. Which led them into their current predicament. Mama-kai-san, could you pass the soy sauce, please? Inari was the first to break the silence of the otherwise quiet dinner. Huh? Zabuza looked up in confusion. Then Inari's question registered. Oh here you go. Zabuza passed the soy sauce to Inari. Thanks, Inari mumbled as he accepted it. Guy burst into laughter at the exchange, causing everyone but Lee and Naruto, who were immersed in their food, to jump. Not such a bad guy, once you get to know him, huh? Guy reached over and gave Zabuza a hard pat on the shoulder. Even demons know about table manners. Zabuza rubbed the spot Guy patted. Unlike those 2 students of yours. Hey, we're hungry, dying takes it out of a guy. Naruto said through a mouth full of food. The room grew quiet after Naruto's ill-worded sentence. The only sound in the room was Hinata's chopsticks as they snapped to pieces in her hands. She put her hands on the table and slowly stood up. I'm sorry, I'm not feeling very hungry at the moment. She turned and walked out of the house. Don't worry, Haku never has been good at making friends, Zabuza said offhandedly. Speak for yourself, Haku muttered. What was that? Zabuza looked over threateningly. Nothing. Haku replied a little too quickly. Autumn. Naruto started to stand up. Then he paused. Hey, Haku, you haven't touched your food. It looks very delicious. However, someone broke my arms and I find it quite hard to eat without them. Haku attempted to move his arms in their splints to prove his point. They all got it well enough. Right, my bad. You know, thought you killed Naruto and all. I could feed you if you want. Lee picked up his chopsticks and began to try to feed Haku. No, that's okay. Zabuza-san's got me. Haku attempted to say politely. Zabuza snorted. A splendid idea. A teacher feeding his student in his time of need. You are a good guy, Zabuza. I'm not feeding him. And don't call me by my first name. Zabuza crossed his arms in defiance. Please, Zabuza-san, I'm really hungry. Haku opened his mouth wide. Tazuna smiled brightly. Finally a chance to get in the conversation. Yeah, Zabuza. Be a pal and feed the poor guy. The look Zabuza gave him shut him up for the rest of the night. That was the last thing Naruto saw as he snuck quietly out of the room after Hinata. He stepped outside and looked around. She was nowhere in sight. Of course, this wouldn't be easy. Naruto sighed. Naruto. Lee's voice caused Naruto to jump up in surprise. We have to talk. Naruto turned around slowly to look at his teammate. Look, bushy brow, I got something else to fix first. Once I get Hinata to forgive me, we can settle this. Naruto had a good idea of what Lee wanted to talk about and he didn't want to discuss it. No, we are going to talk about the Kyuubi, right now. Naruto hated it when he was right. Good thing it wasn't very often he was right. What's to discuss? I was conscious when you said you accepted me. I don't know a lot of the details myself if that's what you want. Naruto raised his hands in front of himself defensively. Lee shook his head. That is not it. You have to tell Hinata. What? No way. She's pissed off right now, there's bound to be a better time. Besides, what's it matter to you? Naruto shrugged Lee's words off. We are teammates, of course, it is important. Lee took a breath. Anyways, Hinata and I kind of tried to find out on our own. We did not come up with an answer. We were supposed to find out together. Of course, because of the law, and because I respect your privacy, I cannot tell her myself. Lee smiled sheepishly. You guys what? Naruto's mouth hung open in shock. What is done, is done. We wanted to know but figured you would not tell us. Lee was defensive now. Well, you know why now. Don't you understand why I don't want anyone else to know? Naruto was practically yelling now. You know Hinata would accept you, do you not? Lee's voice was barely above a whisper. Naruto, who had been ready to shout again, paused. You're right, bushy brow. I'm sorry. I'll tell her, I swear. Just not right now. Lee smiled at him. Thank you, Naruto. Now go find Hinata. Lee gave him the thumbs up. Naruto returned the gesture. Will do. I'll be back with her in no time. He turned around and ran off into the forest. Hinata was crouched over the side of the river. She was washing her hands, again. Hinata found herself washing them whenever the thought of Gata's death crossed her mind. She was scrubbing fiercely now. Soon, her hands were bleeding from the rough way she was treating them. I'm such an idiot. She finally leaned back. She sat on the edge of the water, watching her reflection. Her hands dripped blood onto the ground. Why did I have to make a scene like that? Everyone else is trying to get along. A tear slid from her face and hit the running water. Hinata. Hinata jumped in surprise. She turned her head just in time to see Naruto emerge from the brush. There you are. Naruto smiled down at her. I've been looking everywhere for what happened to your hands. The smile on Naruto's face was replaced by a concerned frown. Her hands were raw, red, and bleeding. Oh, it's nothing. Hinata stood up and placed her hands behind her back. It's nothing. Show them to me. Naruto snarled as he walked up. He stood inches from Hinata. She looked away from him nervously. Hinata. The sternness in his voice caused Hinata to meet his eyes. Once she did, she wasn't able to refuse him. She slowly moved her hands from behind her back and held them up for Naruto to see. He grabbed her wrists and pulled them even closer. Hinata blushed from the contact. Who did this to you? Naruto's voice came out feral. No one did it to me. It was I did it, Naruto-kun. The anger in Naruto's eyes disappeared. Confusion took its place. To yourself? But why, Hinata? Why would you do this to yourself? Naruto was trying to fathom ideas in his head as to why. He wasn't able to come up with any. You heard about what happened after you passed out? Hinata couldn't bring herself to use the D word. Huh? Yeah, I did. I heard how you kicked a bunch of ass. You even killed the head boss. Naruto brightened momentarily. That's the problem. Hinata shouted. Naruto's mouth fell open in shock. What do you mean? I killed a man, Naruto-kun. I killed him and didn't even think twice about it. Naruto was caught completely off guard by this outburst. Hinata never shouted. I was happy when he died. To me, I had avenged you. I'm an awful person. I feel like a demon. That's not true. Naruto interrupted Hinata. He gripped a little harder on her wrists. Hinata, you're not a bad person. Do you know what that man has done to this country? You did these people a huge favor. You freed them. That doesn't mean I had to enjoy killing him. Hinata interrupted him now. Enjoying someone's death is something demons do. You're not a demon. I would know. I talked with a real one today. They both stopped shouting for a minute after Naruto's latest outburst. What do you mean? Hinata broke the silence, with a much quieter voice. Naruto let go of her wrists and looked away now. Naruto-kun. When I went under, I woke up in my subconscious. Naruto still wasn't facing her. While I was down there, I met the Kyubi no Yoko. What? Hinata's head was spinning. The Kyubi no Yoko? How could you have talked to it? The Yondaime killed Itemless, that's right. He didn't kill it. He sealed it inside of a newborn infant. Naruto finally met her eyes. Inside of you, Hinata said the words, but she wasn't even aware of it. Her mind was in a distant place. All thoughts of Gato and her guilt were gone. Everything snapped into place. Naruto's massive chakra reserves, the seal, the villagers' hate. The law, the reason the villagers hate you. It's all because of that? Naruto didn't see where this was going. A second ago it had been about cheering her up. Well, ye idiots. Hinata lunged at Naruto and hugged him hard. What? Naruto stumbled backward slightly from her newest hug. The whole village is just a big group of idiots. I can't believe they would treat you that way for something so stupid. Tears welled up in her eyes. If Naruto hadn't been in shock before, he was now. Silence settled around them for a few moments as he let her words sink in. When they did, he burst into laughter. Hinata's tears stopped momentarily from the surprise. She was about to ask why he was laughing, but Naruto finally returned the hug. This motion brought Hinata completely back into reality. She started to blush heavily. They may be idiots, but we're sworn to protect them. Naruto released the hug and took a couple of steps backward. He was now an arm's length away. Besides, they're not all bad, some good people live there too. Naruto smiled brightly at her. It'll be a while before I'll be able to forgive any of them. Hinata wiped away the last of her tears. Suddenly another thought hit Hinata. Lee Senpai needs to, he already knows. Naruto interrupted. Hinata's eyes widened. I told him when I thought I was going to die. Speaking of which. Can't you forgive Haku? I mean, he purposely avoided my vitals. If it had been anyone else, I might be dead. I know you must be mad. I mean, I'd be mad if I thought one of my friends was killed too. Hinata stared quietly at Naruto for a minute. He felt himself growing kind of nervous under her intense gaze. He couldn't even begin to fathom what was running through her head now. It will be very difficult for me to forgive him, Naruto-kun. Yeah, please listen. Naruto stopped. Hinata didn't often interrupt people. You said you would be mad if you thought a friend had died. Naruto nodded, even more confused. Lee Senpai has already forgiven Haku. Maybe it's because he feels bad. After all, he broke his arms. Or maybe it's because he views you as just a friend. But to me, Naruto-kun, I like you as more than just a friend. Hinata took a step toward him. Oh, you mean like a best friend? Naruto snapped his fingers. Yeah, I can see how that could make it a little harder. No, Naruto-kun, not like a best friend. Hinata stepped closer to him again. You mean like siblings then? Naruto was confused again. Hinata shook her head as she took yet another step toward him. She was right in front of him again. I don't understand, what? Naruto was cut off as Hinata wrapped her arms around his neck and leaned in, capturing his lips with hers. Naruto's eyes grew to the size of saucers. What the hell was going on? Was Hinata kissing him? But why? Did that mean that she liked him in the way it was implying? Surely it must. Since when though? All these thoughts ran through his head in less than 2 seconds. Which also happened to be the length of the kiss. Hinata pulled back and looked dreamily at his shocked face. I'm sorry. But I had to let you know. The only sign she got that he even heard were his eyes as they focused on her face. If this mission has taught me anything, it's that I could lose you at a moment's notice. I confessed earlier but you weren't conscious. So I will again. Naruto-kun. I love you. Naruto just kept staring. Hinata paused for a second and then continued. I don't expect you to love me back, but as I said, you had to know. Hinata bowed her head to him and then bolted past in a dead sprint. She disappeared before Naruto even moved. Thing was, Naruto couldn't bring himself to move. It was like his mind had completely shut down on him. He couldn't even summon up the will to internally yell at himself. Something he was sure he needed right at the moment. Finally, he was able to slowly turn his body in the direction Hinata had run. As he did, he brought his hand to his lips and touched them. Everything registered at once to him. I'm such an idiot. He held his head with both hands and shouted. What the hell am I doing standing here like a statue? Hinata's probably more upset than ever. Wasting no time, Naruto took back off after her. He didn't know what he was going to say but he couldn't leave things the way they were. He could only hope he got to her before she ran into someone else. Naruto didn't get very far before he almost ran straight into his teacher. Naruto stopped short and tripped. Guy, who had been running on his hands through the forest, jumped to his feet and helped his student to his feet. Naruto. It warms my heart to see you keeping up with your exercise, but you must watch where you are going. A sprained ankle will ruin any ninja's day. Guy-sensei, did you see Hinata run by? Naruto frantically looked to see if he could see her at all. He completely ignored what his sensei had said. Hinata? I haven't seen her since she left the house. I thought you would have found her by now. It's been a while. Guy's voice became laced with concern. Well, I did find her. But she ran off again. Naruto didn't meet his sensei's eyes. Did you two get in a fight? Guy peered curiously at his student. He wasn't acting like his usual self. No, not a fight. It was more of a misunderstanding. Naruto shuffled his feet nervously. Guy rubbed his chin thoughtfully. A misunderstanding, huh? She didn't happen to tell you anything private, did she? Naruto froze. He slowly looked up to meet his sensei's gaze. How did you know? Guy smiled brightly. I am your sensei. There is nothing about my cute students that is hidden from me. Now let me guess, you didn't know how to respond and she ran off while you were in a stupor? Naruto's jaw hit the floor. Guy-sensei. You have to tell me what to do. I don't know where Hinata went. I gotta make this right though. That a boy, Naruto. The guy wrapped his arm around Naruto's shoulders. She must have gone back to the house. Now run back there and pour out your feelings upon her. He pointed towards the direction of the house. Yes, Guy-sensei. As soon as I figure out my feelings for her, Naruto added mentally as he took off towards the house. The house came into view before Naruto even completely left the forest. Sitting on the porch was Zabuza. He was sharpening his massive sword. Naruto ignored his presence completely as he ran up to the door. He grabbed the handle and was prepared to fling the door open. I wouldn't do that if I were you. Naruto paused. He looked back at Zabuza. He was still sharpening his sword and wasn't even looking in Naruto's direction. Yet he was sure he had heard Zabuza speak. Why's that? Naruto's hand slipped away from the handle. That teammate of yours ran back in tears. The bridge builder's daughter got a look at her and went into a blind rage. She kicked all the men out of the house so they could have girl time. That never bodes well. Zabuza spoke nonchalantly and continued to sharpen his blade. If you are true, the cause of her tears, then going in there would be suicide for you. But it's because she's crying that I have to go in. Zabuza stopped sharpening. He inspected his sword carefully and ran a finger up its length. He then stabbed it into the ground. Tell me, what do you plan to say to her to stop her tears? He finally turned to look at Naruto. I don't know yet, but I gotta make things better. Naruto started to reach for the handle again. Charging in head first won't make things better without a plan. That's a basic lesson in all ninja academies. Zabuza slammed his hand on the deck. This isn't a mission, this is comforting a friend. Naruto turned back to Zabuza. You can apply mission tactics to real life and vice versa. Use your head. Go in there now and you'll only make her cry more. Sort out your feelings first. Zabuza turned away from Naruto in disgust. Feelings? How the hell do you know what this is about? Did Hinata tell you? Naruto pointed an accusing finger at the mist ninja. Don't be so naive. Anyone could see what's going on here. Naruto lowered his finger. Were her feelings that obvious? Naruto's hair cast a shadow over his eyes. I'd say so, she did take on a miniature army for you, after all. Naruto walked over and sat down next to Zabuza. His eyes were still downcast. Zabuza, what would you do? The ex-Kiri ninja sighed. What is it with you people and using my first name? Half a day ago we were enemies. He glared at Naruto but he didn't react. Zabuza sighed again. How the hell should I know what to do? Being known as the demon of the bloody mist didn't exactly attract the ladies. Why don't you ask your other teammate? Naruto finally looked forward. You're right. I'm going to figure this out no matter what. Naruto stood up. Haku and that clone went to the docks to go fishing, you'll find them there. Zabuza gestured in the general direction they were in. Thanks a lot, Zabuza. Naruto took off running. Quit using my first name. Or at least add an honorific. Zabuza shouted after Naruto as he ran away. Zabuza waited until Naruto was out of sight to stand up and pick his sword back up. Damn it all. I am getting too soft. Naruto arrived at the docks and started scanning down the line of them, looking for his teammate. Naruto. Naruto turned to see Inari running up to him. He had a board game in his hand. He stopped just in front of the blonde. Inari. What's up? Naruto rubbed his head affectionately. I'm borrowing this game from my uncle so Grandpa and I can play. You heard what happened back at home? Inari held up the game to show Naruto. Yeah, I heard. Naruto shuffled nervously at the subject. So what brings you here, Naruto? Inari was oblivious to the older boy's fidgeting. I'm looking for Haku and Lee. Naruto noticed Inari's eyebrows furrow a little. What's the matter? I don't get it, Inari said reluctantly. Don't get what? Naruto felt a little better. He wasn't the only one who didn't understand things today. How can you guys be some chummy with Haku and Zabuza? They tried to kill you. No one is that forgiving. Inari stared hard at Naruto waiting for an answer. Naruto smiled down at Inari. It's not easy to explain but here it goes. It's because we understand each other. Understand each other? Inari looked even more confused. When Gato betrayed Zabuza, we had to team up to stay alive. When you've fought with another person to stay alive, a special bond is formed between you. You to share that bond with us as well. You just don't realize it. I guess I understand. Inari still looked a little miffed. If you don't like that answer, then how about this one? Naruto offered. It's because we're guys. What's that have to do with it? This answer confused Inari more than before. We always get into fights. Sometimes those fights are with your best friends. After it's all over though, we laugh about it and move on. It's what guys do. Inari stared at Naruto for another minute. That's confusing. He finally said. Not nearly confusing as girls, trust me. Naruto patted Inari on the shoulder and walked past to continue his search. It didn't take him too long to find the two of them. They were both sitting at the edge of one of the many docks. Lee had a fishing line in the water and Haku appeared to be in some kind of meditation. Naruto approached quietly. Just as he got there, the fishing line gave a slight tug. Haku's eyes popped open. Now Lee-san. Right. Lee pulled the line out with all of his strength. This turned out to be a bad idea. The fish came flying out from the water, but the force of the pull quickly sent it flying. Not long after, it landed in the water, far away from the dock. That was pretty awesome. Naruto stared out towards the sea in awe. No, it wasn't. Lee-san, I told you to control yourself. It took us a while to get the fish to come back after you scared them all off with your voice. Haku would have rubbed his temple if his arms weren't broken. I apologize, Haku-kun. Lee began to add a new worm to the line. I will get it this time. If not, I will catch 100 fish with my bare hands. Haku started at him quietly. Don't worry, he's always like this. Naruto plopped down in between them. Naruto. Have you come to clash wills with the fish as well? Lee cast the line back into the water. There won't be any fish to catch if you keep shouting, Haku mumbled, closing his eyes again. You meditating or something? Naruto peered at Haku curiously. I can feel the fish as they move through the water. It is easier to sense them with my eyes closed. Haku didn't even open his eyes to answer. That's cool, anyway, I came to ask for advice. Naruto scratched the back of his head as he turned back to Lee. Advice? What kind of advice do you need? Lee peered curiously at his teammate. Naruto was often too proud to ask for advice on things. Well, how do I put this? Naruto spun his hands around in the air as he tried to find the right words. How about I ask this? What do you like about Ayamanikan? Naruto finally asked. She is an incredibly attractive woman. Lee didn't hesitate at all. She comes off stern, but that is just because she bout people. She is outspoken and lets her melt exactly what is on her mind. I find these characteristics most youthful. I am most grateful to you for introducing us. Lee smiled brightly to himself. His thoughts of Ayam quickly pulled him from reality. Naruto scratched his chin. That didn't help at all. Perhaps if Lee-san knew why you were asking, he could help give better insight. Haku threw out, eyes still closed. Naruto sighed. I guess you're right. Okay Lee, what I'm about to tell you is very secret. Hardly anyone knows about this, all right? Lee pulled himself out of his thoughts and nodded vigorously. Okay, here it is. Hinata is in love with me. A moment of silence followed. So she finally told you? What the hell, you knew? Naruto pointed an accusing finger at his teammate. It was obvious to everyone. Naruto whipped his finger towards Haku. Why the hell was I the only one left out of the loop here? Didn't anyone feel the need to tell me? Naruto held his head. How could she go around even telling you and Zabuza? She didn't tell me anything. I very much doubt she confided that information in Zabuza-san as well. Naruto looked at Haku in surprise. Then he turned to Lee questioningly. Sorry, she did not tell me either. Lee smiled sadly at his teammate. Naruto's face lowered. She never really was sick, huh? Naruto sounded defeated. No, she was blushing because you were there with her, Lee confirmed. So, she did confess to you? Yeah. How did you respond? Lee leaned in curiously. I didn't. Huh? Lee drew back like he'd been slapped. What do you mean you did not? What happened? I didn't do anything, okay? She caught me completely off guard. First, she kissed me and then she told me how she felt. I was so confused that I didn't know what to do. I'm still confused. She ran off crying and now I'm stuck. What the hell do I say to her? Naruto panted after his outburst. Lee looked at him closely. He could see the pleading in Naruto's eyes. He was truly lost. Could it be that you want to turn her down but do not know how? No, that's not it. Naruto shook his head. Then just tell her you to want to go, Lee replied simply. That's no good either. Naruto kept shaking his head. Lee's bushy brows furrowed. I do not understand. What is it you want to do then? That's what I'm asking you. How am I supposed to respond? Lee felt the line tug. Lee-san, pull now. Haku shouted. Lee reacted quickly and pulled not quite so hard this time. The fish came flying out of the water and landed gently on the dock. It flapped around for a few moments and then lay completely still. They all stared quietly at it. You are asking the wrong question, Naruto-san. Before you can decide what to do, you must decide how you feel. How do I feel? Naruto turned to look at Haku. Yes, now tell us, how do you feel about Hinata-san? Put your feelings into words. Haku's eyes were wide open as he talked to Naruto now. I don't know how I feel. I mean, it's Hinata. Naruto looked away from Haku's gaze. That's not good enough. Just, Hinata, tells everyone nothing. Let's try it this way. Do you hate her? Naruto's head snapped around at the question. Of course not. Naruto met Haku's eyes. Then do you dislike her? Haku pressed on. No, I like Hinata. She's the nicest person I've ever met. Naruto held his gaze. But you don't love her. Haku clarified. I don't know that. He finally looked away again. Don't look away. Haku barked. Meet my gaze. Naruto slowly brought his eyes back to meet his. You say you don't know. But I think the truth is, you're afraid to know. Why is that? Naruto's eyes grew wide. He let the question go unanswered for a minute. Finally, his eyes looked resigned. You're wrong. I'm not afraid. The thing is, I'm not sure if I know how to love. Haku raised an eyebrow at him. Don't know how? Yeah, that's right. You heard me tell Bushy Brow about my past. I grew up all alone. I had no family, no one who cared for me. I had to learn how to survive by watching everyone else. When I joined the academy, I saw how all the girls threw themselves at Sasuke and always professed their love to him. I thought that was all there was to it. I threw myself at this girl I was sure I was in love with. But now, Hinata, who acted completely differently, confessed to me. I don't know what to think anymore. Haku searched Naruto's eyes quietly. He finally seemed satisfied. Tell me. Do you think Hinata is attractive? Haku finally asked. Attractive? Naruto's eyes widened again. You know, pretty, beautiful, hot. However, you want to word it. Haku's voice stayed monotone. Naruto blushed. Well, I don't know. It's a simple yes or no. Is she attractive to you or isn't she? Haku said sternly. She's cute, okay? Naruto blushed harder. Haku looked satisfied. You said earlier that she is the nicest person you've ever met. What is it about her that made you say that? She always puts others before herself. She compliments me when I do things right. She doesn't get mad or hit me when I do things wrong. When she smiles, it's always sincerely, and I've never heard her tell a lie since I've met her. Naruto couldn't explain it. But he felt incredibly comfortable around Haku all of the sudden. He felt like he could tell him anything. Compared to the other girls in the village, do you like Hinata more? Haku continued his questioning without pause. Definitely. All the other girls are Sasuke-kun this, Sasuke-kun that. Not Hinata though. Naruto wanted to spit. Just thinking about the others put a bad taste in his mouth now. Suddenly it hit Naruto like a ton of bricks. He even felt that way about Sakura now. What the heck was happening to him? Naruto's internal confusion grew a little. How would you feel if Hinata started going out with another guy? How about this Sasuke-san you brought up? Lee watched with growing interest as Haku asked his questions. He was getting to the point. Naruto felt his mind freeze. Hinata go out with Sasuke? Not possible, Naruto told himself more than the others. Pretend it was. Pretend it happened. How would you feel? Naruto tried picturing it. He was surprised when he felt his chest physically hurting. That's not all he felt though. I feel pissed. I wouldn't stand for something like that. Naruto growled out. Haku smiled slightly at his answer. Far as I can tell, the only thing keeping you from loving Hinata is your misconception about love, Haku said bluntly. Come again? Haku's smile dropped. You are concerned that you don't know how to love. That is all that is holding you back from opening yourself to your teammate. Haku said slowly. So you're saying that I might already love her, I just don't know it yet? Naruto scratched his head in confusion. Close enough. Haku broke his eye contact and stood up. Naruto sat still for a minute, blinking rapidly the whole time. He finally stood up. Thanks a lot, Haku. I think I know what to say now. I'll talk to you guys later. Naruto waved and then dashed off the way he had come. Lee, who had sat quietly the whole time, stood up and walked up next to Haku. What did you do to him? He asked. Oh, nothing much. I just got him to be honest with himself. Haku had a sly smile on his face. Now, let's get more fish. One isn't enough. Yash. Would you like a turn, Haku-kun? Lee held out the pole towards the feminine boy. Haku looked down at his arms. Lee followed his gaze. Right. Sorry, I'll go for you then. Lee stiffly walked back to his spot. Naruto raced back to the house. When he got there, Zabuza was no longer on the porch. Instead, Tazuna and Inari sat there playing the board game Inari had been carrying earlier. Naruto ignored them as he did with Zabuza. He marched up to the door and put his hand on the knob. Wouldn't do that, Tazuna said. Tsunami's upset, I know, but I know what I'm going to say this time. Without any further ado, Naruto opened the door and walked in, leaving a bewildered Inari and Tazuna. Naruto stepped into the kitchen but didn't see anyone. So he walked into the next room. There, he saw Tsunami and Hinata sitting on the couch. Hinata wasn't crying at this point and her hands were now bandaged. They had a pot of tea sitting in front of them and Tsunami seemed happy enough. Maybe this wouldn't be so bad after all. Naruto's train of thought was broken off as Tsunami turned and looked at him. Her smiling face was instantly replaced by a dark scowl. Just in time. Tsunami snarled. I've got a bone to pick with you. She sat up and started to cross the room. Naruto gulped but stood firm. Please, let me talk to Hinata first, Naruto said boldly. Alone. After I'm done you can say whatever you want. The tsunami stopped right in front of him. She glared down at him. Why should I? She put her hands on her hips. You shouldn't, please. Naruto interrupted. He knew he was taking a risk here, but he wasn't going to be deterred. Tsunami glared at him for another second before she turned to look at Hinata. What do you say? Hinata looked down and blushed heavily. Pushing her index fingers together, she finally spoke. I'll talk to him. Tsunami looked back at Naruto reluctantly. You have 5 minutes. She stormed towards the door. She opened it only to have Inari and Tazuna stumble in. How many times have I told you guys not to lean on the door to listen to people? You two haven't changed at all. Naruto flinched as he heard the door slam. He was still looking at Hinata who sat on the couch. Naruto took a few deep breaths to steady his heart rate. Hinata. She looked up and locked eyes with him. Naruto swallowed and walked over to where she was. He sat down on the opposite side of the couch. I'm sorry. Naruto finally said. No. I'm the one who is sorry, Naruto-kun. Hinata said quickly. She took a breath to say more but Naruto shook his head at her. You're not at fault here, Hinata. Please listen to me, this is my answer to your confession. Hinata's mouth snapped shut. Her blush remained on her face. Thank you, for confessing to me, but you know, I haven't even really known you all that long. We do train together every day but we don't hang out. I always thought of you as a really good friend, but never as a girlfriend. Hinata looked down sadly. Saying it like that is kind of rude, huh? Naruto joked slightly. But, if it's okay with you, do you want to try going out? Hinata looked up in surprise. Well, I mean, we're going to get to know each other better anyways, aren't we? If that's the case, saying we are going out, instead of just being friends during that time would be kind of nice. Naruto rubbed the back of his neck. So then, Hinata couldn't believe what she was hearing. This was like a conversation she thought doomed to stay in her dreams. So then starting from now on, you're my girlfriend, all right? Naruto did his best to make himself look as confident as his words sounded. Tears started to slide down Hinata's face. They started coming too fast for her to stop. She began wiping them away. Hee. Naruto stuttered. This wasn't the reaction he had been expecting. I'm sorry, Naruto-kun. Hinata wiped away more tears. The tears just won't stop coming. I'm happy. She paused to wipe away more tears. I'm so happy. Naruto smiled awkwardly at her. So how did it go? Lee asked from where he lay on the ground. He, Naruto, Zabuza, Haku, and Guy were all sleeping in the living room. Hinata had gotten to sleep in Tsunami's room with her and Tazuna and Inari each took their rooms as normal. Well, it went pretty well, Naruto mumbled, a deep blush on his face. He was glad it was so dark. No one was able to see his face this way. What does good mean? Haku called from the couch. They had all agreed that he could have it since his arms were broken. Are you two going out or did you shoot her down and she took it well? Since when did you care about others and their relationships, Haku? Zabuza spoke up. I don't want to hear that from you right now, Zabuza-san. From what I hear, you also gave him advice. Zabuza had nothing to say to that. We're going out now. Naruto took the chance to answer Haku's question. Although honestly, it doesn't feel like anything has changed. Is it supposed to be like that? Feelings don't just change overnight. It'll take time for you to feel it. Zabuza muttered quietly but everyone heard him. I told you, you're getting soft. Guy chuckled from his corner of the room. Don't make me get my sword. Zabuza knew his threat was empty, but he said it anyways. Speaking of the manner of your new relationship, Naruto. We have to talk now. Guy ignored the threat and addressed his student. Huh? What do you mean, Guy-sensei? Naruto didn't like the tone of his sensei's voice. It's nothing big, just information that I am obligated to pass to you as your sensei. Guy waved off Naruto's worries. It is not uncommon for ninjas in the same team to fall in love and enter into a relationship, but you should understand that there are guidelines the two of you have to follow now. Guidelines? No one had mentioned this to him. Yes, again, it's nothing big, just standard. Guy again attempted to ease his student's worries. The first one is simple. Never let your personal feelings get in the way of the mission. Just because you're in love doesn't mean you can throw away the mission to be with her. Sounds easy enough. Naruto sighed in relief. These wouldn't be so bad. Next. No sex during a mission. This is what the hell are you saying? We're not even close to that yet. Naruto's mouth was clamped shut by Lee. She'll wake everyone up. That was the last thing Naruto ever wanted to hear from Lee, who was constantly shouting himself. I'm being serious here, Naruto. Don't disregard these rules just because they seem impractical now. Guy warned his student. Whatever, tell me more tomorrow, I'm going to sleep. Naruto rolled over and placed his pillow over the top of his head. Zabuza chuckled. How childish. I never noticed how big of a hypocrite you are until today, Zabuza-san. What was that? Zabuza shot up, but Haku appeared to be snoring in his sleep. We'll see how funny you think that is when I have Lee feeding you tomorrow. Zabuza plopped back down. No one said anything else the rest of the night, but Haku did have nightmares about Zabuza's threat. The next day, all the shinobi except Haku were busily running around the bridge as they helped to construct it. How the hell did this happen? Zabuza grumbled out curses as he continued to work. You were so racked with guilt that you decided to lend us a hand, Guy answered enthusiastically. He was doing twice the workload of everyone else. No, I mean, how come it is only us shinobi helping construct this bridge? What about the others in this village? What Zabuza said was true. Other than Tazuna, they were the only ones here on the bridge working on it. This village is a bunch of stuck-up jerks. That's what happened. Once I finish building this bridge for them, I'm moving out of this country. I'm sick of it. Tazuna continued to hammer away at the support beams. Why not move into Konoha? Naruto's were running around everywhere. This was the first time Guy had ever permitted him more than 3 clones. Konoha, huh? Tazuna stopped working and gazed at the sky as he thought. That doesn't sound half bad actually. You think they would need a construction worker like myself? Tazuna smiled brightly at the thought. I'm sure that once we told them about how brave you are, you would have job offers flying in from every company in the village. Guy boomed from the other side of the bridge. They might even try to make you a shinobi. Lee joked as he brought over a large sum of wooden planks. A shinobi, huh? Hey, I bet you if they did, it'd only take a couple of months before they made me Hokage. Tazuna let out a big laugh as all the Narutos around him shook their heads. Speaking of bringing people back, what are we going to do about Zabuza and Hakukan? Lee jogged up to his sensei as he asked his question. That's a good question. I would like to bring them back if we could, but we have to consider our relationship with Kirigakure after all. Come the next Chunin exams, there will be no hiding either of them. Wars have been started on less, after all. Guy set down his workload and scratched his chin thoughtfully. Certainly we could make a deal with them. Or at least hide the fact that we took them. Why don't we say they are our prisoners? Guy shook his head to all Lee's suggestions. None of those will do. We need something better than that. Guy rubbed his chin thoughtfully as he stared at the topics of their conversation. How about they were working for Konoha the whole time? Guy perked up at Lee's newest suggestion. Explain that. The guy was curious as to where he was going with this. Konoha could have hired Zabuza to sneak into Gatu's employ and act as a double agent. When we got the information we needed, we staged a battle to draw Gatu out of hiding. When that was successful, we took Gatu's life. It was all one big test to see if Zabuza could be trusted. Since he wasn't an enemy, it would also explain why the Hokage sent fresh genin on such a mission. There was no actual ninja opponent, so it still counts as a crank for us. Surely Kirigakure couldn't complain if we decided to make him our own that way. Guy ran what Lee just said through his head several times. With some adjusting, that might work. Guy smiled brightly. Good job, Lee. Thank you, Guy Sensei. Guy nodded at him and turned to everyone on the bridge. He cleared his throat to get their attention. It's been decided. Guy announced. Zabuza and Haku shall come back to the Konoha with us. Everyone but Guy himself jumped as a loud clang hit the bridge. Zabuza, who had been holding onto a huge pile of wood, dropped them down in surprise. Suddenly his face contorted in anger. What the hell do you think you're talking about? Why should I go back to the village with you? I will not be anyone's prisoner. I'll fight to the death first. Zabuza began to reach for his sword. Not as a prisoner. As one of us. Zabuza looked surprised. Haku also couldn't hide the emotion from his face. Guy began to explain Lee's plan to them. You mean, we could be the shinobi of a village? Haku whispered in awe. That's right. The Hokage is a kind man. He'd agree to the plan in no time. It'd be easy to make it look true. A smile broke onto Haku's face. This was like a dream come true. He turned to Zabuza in excitement only to have his hopes dashed. Zabuza did not look pleased with the idea. What makes you think I want to join your village? I have a dream to become the Mizukage. I can't do that if I'm part of Konoha. Haku was right. Zabuza was not pleased. Not one bit. There are ways around that. We may not be in an alliance with Kiri right now, but it won't be that way forever. Someday, there is bound to be a way to get you back there. For now, this gets you off the missing nin list. You don't have to live in hiding. Guy implored Zabuza to see his reason. I am doing this for you. You don't have to do anything for me. I've always been fine on my own. I don't need someone else now. I especially don't need an entire village. Zabuza spat. What the hell is Haku to you then? Naruto shouted this time. Zabuza had gone too far. Isn't he your friend? Haven't you relied on him for years? How can you say you don't need anybody? Haku is a tool, nothing more. What would you know? Zabuza glared at him. You don't believe that and you know it. You have a kind side but you're just afraid of showing it. But I saw it yesterday. You helped me out when I was at my worst. It's thanks to you that I didn't make things worse. Naruto panted from his outburst. Zabuza was about to respond but Guy cut him off. At the end of it all, you were concerned about Haku. It had been you who bandaged his arm. It was you and finally fed him his food yesterday. He means something to you. Can't you see he wants to have a home? Can't you at least give him that? Zabuza didn't respond. He turned to look at Haku. For a minute Haku looked back at him but then looked away. I am to be used as you see fit, Zabuza-san. I exist solely to fulfilling your dream. Nothing else. Zabuza closed his eyes. Those were the words Haku had said to him when they fled from Kiri. When they had lost their home. Well said, child. Okay, we'll go to Konoha. Haku spun around to look at him in surprise. You need time to heal somewhere. Besides, they have numerous training grounds. You can become truly strong there, and together we'll make my dream a reality." Haku couldn't hide his huge smile. After only a week of work, the shinobi had managed to complete the bridge. Having accomplished this task, they now stood with their backpacks and gear, ready to depart the village. Zabuza and Haku didn't have much, so the shirtless man was able to carry both of their stuff since Haku's arms were still broken. The group just had to wait for a couple more people before they departed. "Hey!" They all turned at the sound of Tazuna's voice. The old man, Tsunami, and Inari were all walking up to the group, bags on each of their backs as well. "Sorry, we took so long, thanks for waiting." Tazuna bowed to all the shinobi. Guy waved his apology off. "It is no problem, it takes time to prepare." "Are you sure about this though? I know we offered, but I never thought you would leave the country that has been your home for your whole life." "Yeah, I finished this bridge for them. These ungrateful bastards are lucky I even did that. Far as I'm concerned, it's good riddance." Tazuna patted Inari on the head before he continued speaking. "Besides, this place is full of nothing but sad memories for Inari. It'll do us all some good to make a fresh start. I'm glad to see you are resolute about your decision. I promise you will all enjoy yourselves in Konoha." Guy smiled happily at the family in front of him. "Well then, let's get going." Naruto turned and pointed down the bridge. "I can't wait to get home and show you around the village. It wasn't too long ago and you couldn't wait to leave the village." Lee laughed at his friend as the group started moving down the long bridge. "Hey, the mission is pretty much over. We got to get back so we can get another one." Naruto crossed his arms and attempted to look miffed. "I think it'll be a while before I'm ready to go on another crank mission. My heart isn't as full of youth as it used to be, it almost stopped so many times." Guy looked visibly sick from the thought of everything that had occurred over the past few weeks. "If I was that type of guy, I would apologize to you for all the misfortune." Zabuza chuckled darkly. "You never know, hanging around with this group might change you faster than you think." Tazuna couldn't describe the feeling he had right now. If he had to guess, he'd say he felt younger than he had in a long time. Like some hard burden had just been lifted from his shoulders. Regardless of what it was incredible, and he owed it all to the shinobi he walked beside now. "Say, Tazuna-san." The old bridge builder was pulled from his reflection by Haku's soft voice. "I was wondering, since we finished this bridge, shouldn't we give it a name?" "You didn't notice, we already named it." It was Inari who spoke up for Tazuna instead. "We'll see the sign for it when we reach the other end." "Oh, I didn't notice. What is it called?" Haku sounded surprised that they were already ahead of him. "Well, I tell you, at first I had a hard time thinking up a suitable name." Tazuna had been waiting for an opportunity to give this speech. "But then I got thinking about how we came to be able to complete it. It was thanks to the fact that two groups of enemy ninjas teamed up. It was by bonding and working together that in the end, we were all able to accomplish my dream." Tazuna looked down at Naruto and Hinata, who were holding hands as they walked down the bridge. The bridge that connected not just two countries, but two groups of people. Tazuna wiped the tears from his eyes. The Great Bridge of Unity. "So let me get this straight," the Sandaime Hokage said as he lay his pipe down on the table. "You want me to forge a whole slew of documents about how we hired an ex-Kiri shinobi and his student, who nearly killed you, may I add, just so we can get them into our village as our own and avoid a war with Kirigakure?" "Yes, that is a most youthful explanation, Hokage-sama." Zabuza wanted to slap himself in the face. The only reason he didn't was the urge to slap Might Guy in the face was much more powerful at the moment. Too bad he wouldn't be winning any favors by doing that. Not that he seemed to have a chance in hell, to begin with. Okay, that shouldn't be too difficult. Zabuza's jaw would have hit the ground if his face wasn't wrapped in its usual bandage. Now, to work out where, wait. Zabuza waved his arms frantically. The Hokage stopped and took him into regard. Just like that? Did you even listen to yourself? Did you even listen to him? Zabuza gestured broadly at Guy. How could you possibly accept us just like that? The Hokage fiddled with his pipe as he thought about how to answer Zabuza's questions. You are not bad people. Misguided? Yes, but not bad. I think you could learn a lot from Konoha, and a lot from this team. The Sandaime gestured to the 4 Konoha shinobi in front of him. Zabuza glanced briefly at the green team. He then stole a glance at Haku. The boy seemed to be trembling from excitement. Zabuza had to restrain a sigh. He bowed to the old man. We are in your debt, Hokage-sama. The Hokage laughed. No, none of that debt stuff. Instead, let us focus on things such as your shinobi ranks. I think Jonin and Genin would work out for you too. The Hokage gestured to Zabuza and Haku respectively. Zabuza's mind froze for a second. Jonin? Already? He couldn't complain, but still, the Hokage was a truly lenient man. That'd be excellent, Hokage-sama. Good. The Hokage reached into his drawer and pulled out 2 headbands. One for each of you. Zabuza stepped up and took them both without pause. Haku's arms were still broken so he couldn't grab himself. Zabuza then stepped forward and wrapped the headband around Haku's head before putting his own on. Thank you, Zabuza-san, Hokage-sama. Haku bowed deeply to each of them. The Hokage just laughed again. One more thing, here is your pay for an rank mission. The Sandaime handed Zabuza a slip filled with money. A job well done. Thank you very much. Zabuza and Haku stepped back in line with the rest of the group. Well then, now that is settled, we'll move on to a more serious matter. Even though I can forge the documents and you two will be Konoha shinobi, the council won't simply hand you their trust. Therefore, I am immediately assigning Team Guy another crank mission. Naruto's ears perked up at this. I want you guys to watch over Momochi Zabuza and his student, Haku. You are to show them around town, help them get adjusted, and make sure they are welcome to our village as comrades. This will be considered a long-term mission, you will receive a weekly allowance for it, and naturally won't need to do any other missions while on this one. Naruto almost shouted out at this. However, he managed to restrain himself. Not something that was missed by anyone present. The Hokage smiled slightly. This mission had served to humble the hyperactive boy a little. Now, to work out where the 2 of you shall live. Normally, I would suggest you live with Might Guy. Rejected, Zabuza said flatly. I would rather chop my head off with my sword. Anyone but him. If Guy was offended, he hid it very well. He wore the same eerie smile he had since the Hokage had agreed to make them comrades. I figured you would say as much, however, I insist that you live with your escorts. Hinata's family would never allow it, and to my understanding, Lee lives in the room next to his sensei now, is that correct? Lee saluted when the Hokage addressed him. Yes, Hokage-sama. Guy Sensei's willingness to buy me a room and get me out of the orphanage still brings happiness to my heart today. The Hokage nodded. That just leaves Naruto. Zabuza turned and looked at the little blonde runt. He then looked back to Guy. Okay, we'll take him. Zabuza reluctantly pointed to Naruto. Said blonde runt had a look of complete shock on his face. I'm going to have roommates? The awe that leaked out of his face made everyone feel slightly sick. Everyone in the room was now aware of his prisoner and the treatment he had to receive because of it. Zabuza couldn't believe it at first himself. That such a powerful force lived inside such a small boy's body. Yet here it was, right in front of him. This is awesome. Naruto's shout for joy pulled Zabuza from his thoughts. I can't wait to show you guys to your new room. This is going to be so much fun. We gotta get Ichirakus to celebrate. Yes. I will join you in this celebration. Lee pumped his fist in the air. I must let my sweet Ayam know that I have returned in one piece. What in the devil is Ichiraku? Zabuza rubbed his temple. He was already getting a headache. You don't know what Ichiraku's is? It's only the best ramen in the whole world. Naruto waved his arms in a big circle. It's settled, we're leaving right now, come on Hinata. Naruto grabbed her hand and started to walk out. Actually, the Hokage's voice stopped him in his tracks. I have to talk with you and your sensei yet. The others can wait for you at the base of the tower. Don't worry, the Hokage took notice of the concern on all their faces. It won't be more than a few minutes. Just a couple small details about the mission. It didn't take anyone more than a second to figure out what the Hokage meant by small details. Alright, we'll catch up to you guys in a few. Naruto felt Hinata give his hand a tight squeeze and he smiled reassuringly at her in response. Just a few minutes. He repeated. Hinata nodded, let go of his hand, and started the room. Haku and Zabuza followed her. Lee gave a last look at his sensei and best friend before he too left and closed the door behind him. The Hokage squiggled something down on a piece of paper quickly. He then beckoned Naruto closer. What's this letter? Naruto examined it curiously. You are to open that later today when you feel that you are at your most lost. The Hokage smiled at him, most lost? What are you rambling about now? Naruto put the letter in his pants pocket. You'll know, trust me. Now, on to serious matters. The Hokage folded his arms in front of himself. Oh yeah, so what's the big deal, old man? You want to tell me about how awesome I did on the mission? Naruto put his arms behind his head and smiled big at his grandfather figure. Naruto, drop the act. You know why I asked you to stay. Naruto's arms slowly lowered to his side and his big smile dropped almost instantly. I don't see why you all insist on talking about this. I only spoke with it. It wasn't even serious. He just insulted me the whole time. Naruto was referring to the Kyubi no Yoko whom he had met inside his subconscious. Are you sure that is all? Did it offer you anything? Such as its power? The Hokage's face was grave as he spoke. He was taking no chances where the fox was concerned. No, I asked why he didn't lend me any, but the only thing he tried to get me to do was rip off the seal. The Hokage leaned back in his chair and breathed a sigh of relief. Listen to me, Naruto. You must never use the fox's power. The more of it you use, the looser your seal could get. There is no telling what could happen. The Hokage said sternly. I don't see the problem. The Hokage and Guy were both taken aback by Naruto's response. The fox is a part of me, no matter how much I want to deny it. A trip through the village confirms that. I should learn how to use it. That bastard owes me rent. Silence followed Naruto's blunt demand. It took the Hokage a few seconds to gather his wits, although, he managed to keep his face in complete control the whole time. No one would have even known what Naruto said had surprised him. And what do you plan to do with this power? The Hokage finally asked. I'd use it to become Hokage and gain their respect, Naruto said firmly. And what if the fox takes over your mind? What then? The Hokage had to keep himself from shouting. I won't let it happen. Naruto didn't bother to restrain himself. If it's a clash of wills, I'll come out on top every time. There's no way that fox will beat me. Guy, talk to your student. The Hokage turned the spandex-clad ninja. The man was rubbing his chin thoughtfully. He finally seemed to decide on something. I say we let him do it. The Sandame's eyes widened just a fraction. Don't get me wrong, I know the Kyubi is very dangerous, but Naruto brings up some good points. It is a part of him. No matter what, that is a fact. I cannot rightfully tell my student not to use a power like that when I have taught the Hashiman, also a forbidden power, to another one of my students. Finally, I have faith in Naruto. His youth will always surpass the fox's, of that I have no doubt. Guy gave the Hokage his best reassuring smile. Guy sensei, Naruto felt tears start to fall. No one had ever had so much faith in him before. The Hokage felt older now than he had in a long time. He leaned back heavily in his chair. Do you even have any idea how to learn to control the fox, Naruto? Realization suddenly dawned on his eyes. Well, I was hoping you guys would know, the Sandaime looked to Guy. I have no idea, Hokage-sama. You two are most fortunate. I happen to have a man in the village who can train Naruto. Since your team is no longer doing missions, I want Naruto to report here at noon tomorrow. I will have the man here. You are both dismissed. Send in Tazuna-san and his family next and we will work on getting them a place to stay and a steady job. Guy bowed low and Naruto mimicked the action for the first time in his life. Thank you, Hokage-sama. They both said together. They then turned and walked out. Tazuna, you're good to go. I'll get the details of where you are staying from Hokage-sama later and we can go out to eat. Guy patted the elder man on the shoulder and rubbed Inari's hair. Thank you for everything. I'll see you guys later then. Tazuna, Tsunami, and Inari walked into the Hokage's office. Once they were inside, Naruto turned to his sensei and bowed deeply. Thank you, Guy sensei, for your faith in me. Guy waved the bow off. It is a teacher's job to have faith in their students. Now let's go meet up with everyone else. The guy was back to his boisterous self again. Yeah. Naruto and Guy began to descend the steps of the Hokage Tower. Soon they were stepping outside into the bright Konoha sun. The good weather was the last thing Naruto was paying attention to though. They saw their group, however Neji, and Sasuke was there too. Naruto felt his blood run cold. Hey, what are you guys doing here? Naruto growled at the two of them as he walked up. Neji peered over at him with a bored expression. Sasuke appeared to almost mimic him. We were just leaving, come on, Hinata-sama, Neji replied coldly. He turned and began to walk away. He didn't even look to see if Hinata was following. Hinata bowed quickly to her group. Sorry, but I must go. She turned to run after Neji but Naruto grabbed her hand. Wait for a second. Why the heck do you have to leave? He asked in little less than a yell. We were all going to eat together. What business of it is yours? Neji had stopped walking but hadn't turned around. It is my business, I happen to be her boyfriend. Now stay out of this. Hinata turned a horrified gaze to Neji. Naruto-kun, not now, please. She whispered frantically. Father heard about Zabuza and Haku being with our team. He wants to discuss the mission with me. Boyfriend, huh? Naruto watched Hinata visibly flinch. I can't wait to hear what Hayashishima thinks about that one. Neji then continued to walk, Sasuke on his heel. Naruto-kun, we'll hang out later today, I promise, Hinata said again as he let go of her hand and took off after Neji. Naruto watched them go miserably. Suddenly he felt a hand on his shoulder. He looked to see it was his sensei. I'm going to go with her. I won't let anything happen to her, don't you worry, Naruto. Guy gave him his nice guy pose. Naruto smiled up at him. Thank you, sensei. No problem. Guy vanished as soon as he said those words. Haku whistled. I am always surprised by that man's speed. It is no wonder you outclassed me, Lee-san. Yes. Guy sensei is an incredible man and I am most proud to say that some of his youthful spirits have rubbed off on me as well. Haku and Zabuza took a couple of steps back away from the shouting youth. So, shall we get going to Ichiraku's to celebrate our miraculous return? Lee turned to Naruto who was still staring off the way Hinata had gone. Naruto? Lee placed his hand on the blonde's shoulder. Huh? Naruto shook his head and turned to his teammate. Ichiraku, Lee repeated calmly. Oh yeah, let's go. Naruto turned around and started to walk, but he stopped again. Zabuza? What is it? Zabuza had sat quietly through the whole exchange that had gone on. He would never admit it, but he kind of wanted to split that older Hyuga kid in half with his sword. It sucked that he was supposed to be making friends with these people. Well, it wasn't all that big a deal before, but if you're going to be living in this village, maybe you should buy a shirt. Naruto kicked his feet around nervously. I mean, all the villagers are staring at us, and for once, it's not to glare at me. Zabuza looked around. Sure enough, about everyone that was within sight on the street was staring at them. Well, just at him. He let out a big sigh. Well, we did just get paid for an rank mission. Where's the nearest clothing store to here? Guy had only ever been inside the Hyuga compound a couple of times, but this would be the first he had ever been this far in. He would normally like to look around curiously, but with so many curious Byakugan eyes trained on him, he figured it would be better to just keep his head straight and his head held high. He walked just a couple of paces behind his student. Neji and Sasuke had not entered and instead went to meet up with their team. Hinata stopped in front of a pair of big sliding doors. Guy stopped just behind her. Hinata cleared her throat. Father, I am here to see you, as requested. Guy easily picked up on the anxiety in her voice. Yes, however, I see you brought another person here with you, said a cold voice that could only have been Hinata's father from the other side of the door. The guy couldn't be sure, but he bet that her father had his Byakugan active at that very moment. Guy thought about answering, but Hinata beat him to it. Yes, this is Guy Sensei. He insisted that he accompany me. Very well, you may both enter. Hinata bowed and Guy mimicked the action. You couldn't be too sure if he was watching or not. Then, Hinata opened the door and walked in. Guy of course followed. Once inside, Hinata closed the door behind them, and then she went and sat down on the floor in front of her father. Guy paused for the slightest of seconds to take everything in. Hayashi was sitting at the far end of the room. Only a small pillow was between himself and the floor. There was a long, slim table in front of him. At the other end were two pillows, one of which Hinata currently occupied. Guy wasted no time in taking the other one. It is a pleasure to meet you, Guy-san. I hope Hinata has not disappointed you too much. The guy wasn't sure whether what he asked was posed as a question or not, but he figured he would answer regardless. The pleasure is all mine, Hayashi-sama. Hinata has been anything but a disappointment. She has progressed quite well in everything I have instructed of her. Guy kept his voice low and level. There was no fluctuating emotion seeping through. I would be interested in hearing of this progression later on in the conversation, but for now, I am most curious as to why my daughter was seen walking into the village with an erranked missing ninja from Kirigakure. I had intended to ask her, but I trust you would be able to supply me with a suitable answer. Guy almost stole a glance at his student. However, he doubted the action would have been missed and chose not to. Yes, you see, Hokage-sama hired Zabuza-san and his student to infiltrate a nefarious businessman's corrupt guard. My team was then hired to help draw this man out and assassinate him. We completed our mission and were ordered to return with Zabuza-san and Hakusan. Guy told the story he had been rehearsing. He just wished its first test didn't have to be on a master at seeing through deception. I see, so the plan went through without a hitch. If I may ask, what role did my daughter play in this assassination? If Hayashi knew he was lying, he didn't show it. All the same, his latest question caused Guy to flinch. He wasn't sure how the man would take to the news of his daughter had been the assassin. Well, I don't know how else to say this, but Hinata was the one who ended up carrying out the deed, Guy answered with bated breath. To his surprise, he saw Hayashi's surprise. Surely you jest. My daughter killed someone? How could it have come down to that with two jonin there? Hayashi's voice did not display his surprise. Well, things got a little frantic. The guy was starting to sweat. He hated this kind of meeting. Gator appeared with an entire army of armed guards. We believe he saw through our deception and planned to have us all killed. And Hinata got through this army and killed. Wait, did you say Gato? Guy wanted to bite his tongue out. He slipped up now by using his name. As in one of the richest men in the world. Gato? You expect me to believe my daughter, who has displayed no talent in our art, fought her way through a miniature army and killed one of the most powerful individuals on the continent? Like I already said, things got complicated. The guy was starting to feel panic. Zabuzasan and I were about to begin our attack, but Hinata just kind of charged in. Again, you speak foolishness. What would have possibly got this timid girl to charge into an army of men by herself, and what kept you from stopping her? This was not going how Guy had hoped. He was digging himself a bigger hole with each passing sentence. It almost seemed like the clan head was toying with him. Like he knew he was lying from the beginning. I thought they had killed Naruto-kun. Guy didn't stop himself from glancing at his student this time. He quickly looked back and was thankful to see Hayashi was also looking at her. Killed him? What do you mean? Hayashi's questions were now poised to Hinata. Guy almost let out a sigh of relief but quickly caught himself. Even the slightest movement could bring the man's gaze back to him. He needed to use this time to regain his thoughts. Zabuzasan, Hakusan, and Gai Sensei were the only ones who knew about the mission. They felt if we knew we would be likely to give it away since we are inexperienced. They made it look realistic by putting Naruto-kun in a death-like state. I was fooled by it and out of anger, I attacked. The guy couldn't help but be impressed by her quick wit. Naruto was rubbing off on his team more than he expected. Anger, you say? That commoner's well-being made you angry enough to take a man's life? The guy suddenly had a feeling Hinata was about to say something she was going to regret. Yes, it did. Because I love him, father. Guy hated being right. Hayashi's surprise quickly turned to anger as he slammed his hand on the table in front of himself. Love him? No, that's not right, I forbid it. I won't let you. Hinata screamed. Being with him has made me stronger than I ever thought I could be. I'll spar you to prove it. Hinata stood up to show how serious she was. Spar? Against me? Hayashi had an incredulous look on his face. You should know your place. When I've put you down, I will have your team switched immediately. He promptly stood up and walked out of the room. Hinata followed him without being told. Guy sat there for a minute, his brain trying to catch up with what had just happened. There was only one thing he knew for sure at that moment. He hated being right. Hayashi and Hinata. Father and daughter. The two now stood facing each other in the family dojo. Guy stood in the room as well with a multitude of other branch family members who were looking on with curiosity. Hinata's younger sister was also in the room. She had a pained look on her face as she watched her older sister and father get ready to have a more than unfriendly spar. If I win, you have to promise me that I can date Naruto-kun. You must also let me remain on my team. Hinata broke the uneasy silence in the room. You think you can win? I will admit that you have changed, daughter, but confidence without the strength to back it up is foolishness. Hayashi activated his Byakugan and settled into his perfected Juken stance. I am confident because I know Naruto-kun believes in me. Hinata's Byakugan activated and she charged her father without even waiting for the signal. She closed the gap in no time and struck at him. Hayashi stepped slightly sideways to avoid the attack. He then brought his foot in between Hinata's legs and quickly pulled back. The result sent Hinata stumbling forward, right into Hayashi's waiting palm. He struck her hard in the stomach and sent her crashing painfully to the floor a few feet away. As I said, confidence without power is foolish. Stay down and reflect on what has happened here. Hayashi turned to walk away. You're the foolish one, father, Hinata said as she stumbled to her feet. If you think that one blow is enough to keep me down, that is. Hayashi spun around to face his daughter. He had not expected that. A month ago and that blow would have put his daughter down for sure. This might just be interesting after all. Hayashi settled back into his juken stance. Come, he ordered. Hinata didn't even think twice about obeying. She charged in again and delivered the same strike as last time. That won't work. Hayashi avoided the move and stepped his foot in again. Neither will your move. Hinata pivoted and spun on her back foot, causing Hayashi's backward motion to meet only air. Hinata continued her spin and brought her raised leg around in a powerful spinning kick. Hayashi quickly raised his forearm and blocked the blow. He was not prepared for the surge of pain he got from the block. What trick is this? Hayashi rose his other arm up and pulled Hinata's pant cuff up slightly. Underneath he was shocked to find an assortment of training weights. Not light ones either. It isn't a trick. It is a testament to my determination. Hayashi released his hold on her leg and they both jumped backward. She then bent down and unclipped her weights. I hope you are ready to experience the full power of my youth, father. The guy was flattered that she was finally picking up his philosophy. He just wondered why it couldn't have waited just another day. What nonsense are you speaking? Hayashi lowered his guard just slightly. His eyes did nothing to hide his confusion or growing anger. Just then his daughter vanished. He ducked just as Hinata's leg passed over his head. It's not nonsense. Hayashi quickly spun and struck at Hinata only for her to vanish again. It's my resolve to win. Hayashi rolled sideways to avoid Hinata's next juken strike. He completed his roll quickly and settled back into his stance. He needn't have hurried through. Hinata stood there, calmly facing him. You have gotten stronger, daughter. But it has led to too much confidence. You made a big mistake. You are now within range of my divination. Hayashi's stance shifted and Hinata's eyes grew wide. Hakurokuji show. Hayashi hadn't wanted to resort to this, but if speed was all his daughter had to show, then he was no longer interested in continuing this fight. He launched himself at Hinata and only too late noticed the smirk that had grown on her face. Hinata changed her stance and then began spinning quickly. Impossible. Hayashi was too close to stop his attack and his first two strikes flew toward Hinata. But they never found their mark. His hands were stopped by an invisible barrier, not a second later, and Hayashi was blasted off his feet and flung across the room. He landed hard on his back. He quickly rolled onto his stomach and began to get to his feet. The Hakusho Kaiten. He gasped. But when did you learn that? Not only that but the Juho Sashiken as well. Hayashi's eyes widened as he quickly rolled out of the way again. His daughter had appeared in front of him, her hands engulfed in blue chakra in the shape of a lion. She struck the ground where he had been just a moment ago, causing the wood floor to completely shatter. Hayashi landed on his feet and quickly settled into his stance. It was a pointless gesture though. There was no way he was going to risk a counterattack while Hinata had that technique active. Hinata charged at him and unleashed a furious barrage of punches. Hayashi ducked and weaved his way through every one of them with increasing difficulty. Finally, he watched them start to simmer out. He took this opportunity to knock her latest fist away. Hinata stumbled back from the blow and Hayashi closed in. He never noticed the seemingly weakening jutsu suddenly increased to an intensity bigger than before. He did feel Hinata's enhanced fist connected painfully with his gut, doubling him over and knocking him off of his feet. Hayashi, for the second time in one match, was sent down onto the floor on his back. He groaned and slowly rose to his knees. He suddenly bent over and coughed up a heap of blood. He looked up wearily to see his daughter's jutsu had deactivated and she was now leaning over and panting heavily. Her Byakugan was also off now as well. It would appear that move has exhausted your chakra. Hayashi finally got back to his feet. That means this fight is as good as over. He charged at her again, his juken poised to strike. Hinata dropped to the floor and spun her leg in a powerful sweep. Hayashi stopped fast and jumped over it. Hinata turned her body and sent her other foot upwards, catching Hayashi painfully in the chin with her heel. The Hyuga clan had landed painfully on his feet a few feet away as his daughter spun around to face him and settled into a Goken stance. I will continue to fight, chakra or no chakra, I cannot afford to lose. Hinata charged at her father and delivered a punch. Hayashi dodged and returned with a juken. Hinata brought her elbow up and deflected it to the side, sending the chakra blast pointlessly into the air. Hinata then spun around and delivered a powerful backward fist. You'd go so far for this boy, yet do you know anything about him? Hayashi ducked under her fist and swung at Hinata from down low. Hinata spun out of the way and brought her leg up in a chamber kick. Hayashi went to meet it with a juken strike. Hinata stopped mid-spin and then spun the other way. I know everything about him, even about the context of the law. Hayashi was caught off guard and Hinata's reverse kick nailed him in the middle of the back. He stumbled forward. Hinata jumped in the air and aimed another spinning kick at his head. Hakusho Kaiten. Hinata was blown backward and landed painfully on the ground. You know this and yet you still wish to be with him? Hayashi spun to face his daughter. I don't understand. Why? If you know, then you must know the risk he poses. Hinata chuckled at his question. Why? She asked as she stumbled to her feet. Perhaps for the same reason, you chose mother. Hayashi's eyes widened. I know all about how you had to fight the entire Hyuga Council to get them to accept her. You broke a lot of rules and nearly lost your place as the clan head. But you did it anyways. Maybe my reason is the same. Hinata roared and charged at her father again. Just before she got to him she stumbled from her exhaustion. Hayashi took the opportunity and nailed her straight in the jaw. Hinata's body arced high into the air and then crashed down onto the ground in a crumbled heap. Just like that, in a single instant, the match was over. You don't know anything about that, Hayashi whispered more to himself. He stared down at his now unconscious daughter. Gai-san. Hayashi called without turning his gaze. Yes. Gai stepped forward, his eyes wouldn't move from his unconscious student. Where did Hinata learn those moves? They are far too advanced for her. Gai's eyes finally focused on the man who was speaking. Too advanced. Did you see the way she executed them? They were both flawless. You should be proud. Gai gestured towards the man's unconscious daughter. I asked where she learned them. Hayashi said coldly. I taught them to her. It is my job as a teacher to teach her everything I believe she is capable of. Hayashi nodded his head. I see, I had told her I would remove her from the team. Gai opened his mouth to protest. But I have changed my mind. The improvement she has shown here is beyond anything I have ever dreamed possible. Keep up the good work. With that, Hayashi turned to walk out of the room. Wait. Hayashi stopped. What about Naruto? You will allow her to see him, right? The guy wasn't sure why he was asking such a question. He figured he owed it to his student who had tried so hard. Yes, Uzumaki Naruto. Send him here to meet me. I would like to talk to him myself. Guy's mouth fell open. Your presence won't be necessary this time. I will be sure my daughter is on time for your typical meeting time tomorrow. Hayashi walked out of the room before Guy was able to say another thing. He looked quietly back at his young student. Her younger sister was now leaning over her. She appeared to be trying to rouse her. I'm sorry, Naruto. I didn't keep my promise to you. Man, that hit the spot. Naruto shouted as he walked down the street that led to his apartment. It was quite good. It seems like it has been forever since we had food from a restaurant, wouldn't you agree? Zabuza-san? Haku smiled brightly. It was all he could do to contain the excitement from going to the place he would soon call home. It was all right. Better than I thought anyways. Zabuza praised lightly. He now wore a navy blue, sleeveless jacket. It had a red swirl on the back. He still carried his huge sword on his back, so naturally, everyone was still staring at him. At least it wasn't at his pecs anymore. All right. Up these stairs and we'll be here. The excitement was boiling up inside Naruto as he walked up the steps, led them down the hall, took out his keys, and opened the door to his room. This is it. Naruto said proudly as he walked in and spread his arms in front of himself. This is it? Naruto picked up on the disappointment in Zabuza's voice. Hey, I know it's not much but it's not that bad. Not that bad? There are ramen cups everywhere. My sword is scraping against the damn roof. It looks like there is only a kitchen, one bedroom, and one bathroom. Where are we supposed to sleep in this dinky hellhole? If you're gonna be that way you can just sleep with Gai-sensei. Zabuza shivered slightly. He then took another look around. Suddenly a brilliant idea came to him. Yeah, you're right, this might not be so bad, after all, Zabuza said walking into the house. He strolled straight for the kitchen. See, that's the spirit. Naruto nodded happily, oblivious to Zabuza as he examined his kitchen wall. Hey, runt. On the other side of this wall is the apartment next door, right? Zabuza poked the wall with his finger. Huh. Yeah, I guess so, no one lives there though. You know, no one wanted to live in the room next to the demon brat. Naruto now looked at Zabuza curiously. That's perfect. A devious smile that was masked beneath his bandages appeared on his face. Why do you ask? Naruto wasn't sure what happened. 1 second, Zabuza's sword was on his back, on the wall was up, the next his sword was gone and so was the wall. Yeah. That'll do just nicely. Zabuza stepped into the other room. Now we got 2 of everything. Gah. What the hell, Zabuza? You can't just go breaking down walls. Who the hell is supposed to pay for that? What am I going to do? This isn't right. I'm so lost now. Wait, lost? Didn't the old man mention something about being lost? Naruto quickly reached into his pocket and pulled out the letter. He flipped it open and began reading furiously. Naruto, I assume that if you are reading this that you are just ignoring my instructions and being nosy, or Zabuza has broken down the wall between your apartment and the one over. If that is the case, I will have already taken the liberty of having let the complex owner know that there is someone who has moved into that room. I hope the 3 of you are getting along well. P.S. You'll need to buy more than just ramen now that you have other people in the house. The letter slipped from Naruto's hand. He made a mental note never to underestimate the Hokage again. Ever. Haku noticed the note and he bent over to read it. As he read it he began to chuckle. Hokage-sama sure is an intuitive man. Haku motioned for Zabuza to come over and read the letter. Naruto meanwhile went to his couch and slumped down. At least things were working out this way, right? A sudden knock on the door brought Naruto to his feet. He answered the door and was surprised to see a winded guy there. Gai-sensei, what's up? Why do you look panicked? Naruto, it's urgent. Guy placed his hands on his student's shoulders. You have to. What happened to your wall? Guy took notice of it as Zabuza walked back into Naruto's side of the apartment. Ah, might Guy. Do you like my addition to the room? I could be a designer if I wanted to, don't you think? Zabuza laughed maliciously as he stepped back over to the other side. Right, never mind. Naruto. Still here, Gai-sensei. I can't go anywhere with your hands on my shoulders. Naruto shrugged his shoulders to emphasize. No time for jokes. Hinata took on her father in a sparring match and now he wants to talk to you. Naruto stared at his sensei for a split second. Guy took notice as all the emotions ran across his face. First confusion, followed by realization, followed by anger, followed by more confusion, and then replaced again with anger. If that bastard hurt her, I'll rip his throat out with my teeth. Naruto pushed past his sensei and started walking down the walkway. Instead of trying to stop him, Guy walked with him. Listen, Naruto. Hinata is the one who challenged him to the spar. Guy kept up easily with Naruto's brisk pace. Why would she do that? Naruto asked, still angry. He told her she couldn't love you and she went off the wall. She fought well and surprised him quite a bit. I think he wants to judge you. You can't go in there angry. Naruto came to an instant halt. Guy had no trouble matching him. Can't go in angry? How can I not be angry? That bastard doesn't even deserve to be called a father. Naruto spun on his sensei. I know, Naruto, but you didn't see what I did. If you go in there angry you won't be helping Hinata. You have to think calmly, for her sake. Naruto was visibly shaking from all the emotions he was feeling. After a few deep breaths, he was able to work himself down. You said he wants to judge me, what do you mean? Naruto finally asked. Guy smiled brightly at Naruto's control over himself. Hinata showed him things he didn't expect. She said her determination comes from you. I think he is considering letting her see you romantically based on that. Anything to help her improve. But if you go in there, wild and destructive, you will destroy any chance. Naruto took everything Guy said in slowly. He finally nodded a couple of times. Okay, I think I know what to do now. Let's go, Guy Sensei. Naruto turned to start moving again. He doesn't want me there this time. I'm sorry, but you're on your own for this one, Naruto. Naruto looked at him in disbelief. He then nodded his head slowly. As I said, I got this. Naruto then started running off down the street. Guy hoped Naruto read have it. I guess I should go take Haku to the hospital to have his arms looked at. I have to meet up with Tazuna like I promised. Guy was about to turn back to Naruto's apartment but he saw Naruto running back towards him. Naruto appeared next to his sensei again. I forgot how to get to the Hyuga compound. Guy sighed. Naruto's chances were dwindling already. Hayashi sat quietly in the room he had been in before the interruption. He stared quietly at a picture of himself and his beloved deceased wife. Things had changed so much for him when she had perished while on a mission. He hated even thinking about it at this point anymore. Had Hinata turned out more like him than he thought? She was willing to fight the whole clan for this boy. Challenging him was proof enough of that. Hayashi sighed. Just as he did, a voice called out to him. Hayashi-sama. Uzumaki-san is here to see you. Hayashi quickly slid the picture into the folds of his robes. Send him in. Hayashi masked all his emotions. He had to appear stern as usual. The door opened and the blonde walked in nervously. The door sliding shut behind him made him just slightly. The blonde walked up and sat down on the pillow directly in front of Hayashi. You look angry, is there something you want to say to me? The Hyuga head thought it would be best to test his temper. See how he would be. It wouldn't surprise him if Guy warned him about watching his anger. You're damn right there is. As expected, if Naruto had been warned about it, he threw all those words to the side. You think it's okay to just treat Hinata that way? I should kick your ass right here for that. I have it half in mind just to leave this place right now and take her with me. You can bet that when I'm Hokage you'll be number one on my shit list for treating her that way. Hayashi stared ominously at Naruto for a solid minute. Everything Naruto had said slowly processed through his head. Then he felt his lip twitch slightly. Suddenly his mouth curled into a smile. The next thing Hayashi knew and he was laughing, hard. T had been forever since he had done something like that. What the hell? You don't think I'm serious? I will be Hokage and Hinata'll be the head of this clan. Naruto pointed a vengeful finger at the man who sat across from him. Hayashi's laughter slowly died down. I'm sorry for that. It's just been a long time since anyone has spoken to me that way. First, my daughter tells me off, and now her little boyfriend does too. This truly is a surprising day. Yes, I think you'll do just fine. Hayashi had planned on accepting him from the beginning. Anything to help his daughter improve further and become the clan head like she was supposed to be. Just fine. Naruto pulled his finger back. What did you mean? I mean, I think a future Hokage would be an apt choice for my daughter's boyfriend. Hayashi smiled at him. Oh hut Hanks, I guess. Naruto scratched the back of his head. Hey, wait for a second, I had more to say. Naruto pointed at him again. Yes, if you must take my daughter on a date tonight, I will have her sister show you to her room. Hanabi. You may come in now. Naruto spun around as a younger Hinata with long hair opened the door. Father. Hanabi bowed to him before she took a seat on the one side of Naruto. Naruto noticed her peek at him out of the corner of her eye every now and then. I would like you to look at this picture. Hayashi slid the picture over. Hanabi gasped as Naruto picked it up. Is this your mom? Naruto asked as he held it more towards Hanabi. She only nodded slowly. She's really pretty. What clan was she from? The most distinct thing Naruto noticed about her was the fact that she did not have the Byakugan. Instead, she had beautiful, purple irises. He had always just assumed the clan married within itself. She is a Hyuga. Naruto dropped the photo in surprise. But her eyes, she is the first one in over a century to be born without our clan Kekii Genkai. Hayashi looked sorrowfully at the picture. It was the cause of many troubles. Troubles? Naruto looked in confusion at the picture. As you know, we marry within our clan to keep the bloodline pure, however, because she did not have our Kekii Genkai, she was deemed unfit to be my bride. Hayashi picked the picture up and stared at it. But you said she was Hinata's mom. Naruto looked between both of them in confusion. She is. I fought the clan and came out on top but not without consequence. Hayashi stared at his daughter. When Hinata showed ineptitude for our clan's techniques, her mother was the one blamed. She was scorned by the rest of the clan for producing a weak heiress. I fear that it was this that eventually drove her to her death. Things started to piece together for Naruto. You blamed Hinata for her death, didn't you? At first, yes. Lately, though, I have come to blame myself. When I found out my daughter loved you, I didn't want you to be together because she may suffer the same fate as I. Hayashi looked back up at Naruto. After fighting her today, I realized I was the one who was wrong and that she is more like me than I ever realized. Why are you telling me all this? Naruto's anger was long forgotten. It was replaced by confusion now. Because you are the one she has chosen. The same way I chose my wife. I won't oppose you, but no, it won't be easy either. You have my respect, Naruto-san. Hayashi bowed low to the blonde. An act the Naruto awkwardly returned. Now, Hanabi. Take him to your sister's room. Right away, father. This way, Naruto-san. Hanabi gestured for Naruto to follow her. Yeah, I'm right. Naruto got up and followed after her. He wasn't sure how it happened, but he had ended up following that man's pace. A truly formidable opponent. He would have to try again another time. The door was shut behind him and Hayashi was again left alone. Hurry and become a man who can properly protect my daughter, Naruto-san. Protect her since I wasn't properly able to. Hayashi knew he was taking a risk mouthing that sentence out loud, but he didn't care. He felt much better having said it. Meanwhile, on the other side of the door, Hanabi was giving Naruto a strange look. Naruto-san, huh? Yeah, it was Hanabi, right? Naruto asked nervously. He was never good with names. Yes, but, Naruto-san, Hanabi looked away and didn't say anything for a minute. What's up? Naruto got tired of waiting. Hanabi didn't answer for another couple of seconds. Naruto-san, you're incredible. Hanabi was suddenly beaming at him. Thanks, I know. Naruto puffed out his chest. Why exactly am I incredible? I have never seen Hinata Nichan try so hard in her life. She was incredible when she sparred against her father. Furthermore, I have never heard my father laugh, not even once. For you to be able to get him to, you must be something. Not only that, but I haven't even seen a picture of Mom in forever. I had no idea he kept it on him. I had even forgotten what she looked like. Naruto felt an odd sense of pride swell up inside of himself as Hanabi continued to drone on. He had gotten a lot out of the clan head. Suddenly, they were at Hinata's door. Hinata Nichan. Hanabi said as she knocked on the door. Go away, Hanabi-kun. Hinata shouted. Just leave me alone, I don't want to do anything right now. Naruto grew worried. Hinata sounded upset. He was about to call but Hanabi grabbed hold of his hand to get his attention. When she had it, she shook her head. So Naruto reluctantly remained quiet. But, Hinata Nichan, don't you want to see the surprise I brought you? They heard some shuffling from in the room. Suddenly, they heard a gasp and footsteps as Hinata ran to the door. She swung it open. Naruto-kun. Hinata threw herself into him. Naruto was knocked backward from the force but managed to stay on his feet. What is it with you and these forceful hugs? Can't I get an ordinary one for once? Naruto joked as he returned to hug. Soon Hinata pulled back. I don't understand, did you sneak in here? Hinata wiped away tears that had begun to leak from her eyes. Nah, your father asked for me to come. He said he approves of us dating, so it's okay. Naruto laughed at the look of surprise on Hinata's face. Come on, he said we can go on a date tonight. Bushy Brow and Ayamanikan are probably going to be ready by the time we get there. Naruto started to pull on Hinata's arm. A date? Hinata asked, off in her little world. Yeah, a double date. Come on. Naruto pulled a little harder. Oh, 1 second. Hinata pulled back, went into her room, and closed the door. Wait, Hinata. What the heck is she doing? Naruto scratched his head in confusion. She's changing, of course. She can't go like she is. Naruto had forgotten Hanabi was there for a second. Well, why not? Hanabi just looked at him like he was stupid. Sorry, we're late. Naruto called running up to his teammate and sister figure. Hinata was just behind him. Whoa, Bushy Brow, what happened to your outfit? Naruto stopped short to stare at his best friend. He no longer wore the spandex that was his and Guy's trademark. Instead, he wore green shirts and a green t-shirt. The yellow leg warmers were still present to hold his weights in. Ayamanikan has insisted that I wear something different while out on dates. I will be back to my normal attire when we next meet. Speaking of changing clothes, I see you didn't have the decency to do so. Look how pretty Hinata got for you. Aren't you ashamed of yourself? Naruto flinched at his sister's harsh criticism. He wouldn't deny it though, Hinata looked pretty good in normal clothes. Her bright blue, sleeveless shirt fit nicely over her slender frame and contrasted well with the slightly purple pants she wore. Naruto had admitted she was cute before, but this was now on a whole new level. I don't mind. Hinata blushed slightly as she spoke. She wasn't entirely comfortable with everyone's eyes on her just yet. I am just happy to be going on a date with you all. I hope to make this a most youthful night. You're into that talk about youth too? I am outnumbered now. Ayam threw her hands up in defeat. Anyways, we need to decide on where to eat. She looked over at Naruto and Lee purposely. How about, continue that sentence and I'll serve you cold ramen for the rest of your life. Naruto snapped his mouth shut. I know of an excellent restaurant a few blocks away. But we must hurry, soon only the bar is left open. Lee grabbed Ayam's hand and started running off. Lee, wait. We've talked about you dragging me around like this. Ayam yelled frantically as Lee nearly carried her off. Naruto looked over to Hinata. That looks oddly familiar, huh? We should probably run to keep up with him, we don't know where they are going, after all. Naruto looked back in time to see Lee turning the corner. Last one, there is a rotten egg. Naruto bolted before Hinata had a chance to react. That's not fair, Naruto-kun. Hinata ran after him as soon as she realized what happened. They whipped around the corner and were quickly gaining on Lee. Hinata suddenly got an idea. Naruto-kun, someone just dropped a bowl of ramen. Naruto halted in his tracks and spun around, searching for the source of such a dastardly deed. Hinata shot past him and Naruto quickly realized he'd been duped. Hinata barely beat Naruto to the building Lee was standing in front of. You cheated! Naruto shouted as he ran up to her. Hinata responded by sticking her tongue out at him. You are all insane. Ayam was still gasping for breath. How can none of you even be winded? Our flames burn far too brightly to be put out by such a light jog. Lee roared. Naruto's stomach growled in response. Well, my flames are telling me they need to be fed. Naruto walked past them into the restaurant. Hinata and Lee walked in laughing with him. Ayam grumbled a little but had a grin on her face all the same. Soon, the group was seated at a high table right next to the bar. Hi, there folks, said a waitress who came up to their table. The name is Nene and I'll be your server tonight. What can I start you all off with to drink? I'll have tea, Ayam said. The others all quickly followed her lead, ordering tea. All right, 4 teas, I'll be right back with those and to take your orders. Nene turned around and ran smack into a customer with a glass of something in his hand. The man stumbled and dropped his drink all over the front of Nene's dress. The man looked over at her sharply. He didn't say anything and just started walking back toward the bar. Oh, I'm sorry. Nene shouted after recovering her wits. The man ignored her. Nene shrugged and walked off, looking at her ruined dress the whole way. Great, looks like we got a newbie, Ayam mumbled. How much you guys want to bet she brings us back the wrong drinks? I am sure she will do just fine. Lee said. She just has to tap into her untamed youth. What's that bushy brow, you disagreeing with Ne-chan? Lee shook his head fiercely. I think she'll do just fine, Hinata said as she watched Nene walking back carefully with their drinks. Here you go, folks. Nene set the tray of drinks on the table. Ayam peered at the drinks curiously. She noticed quickly that it wasn't tea they had. Yosh! Well done, Nene-san. Lee grabbed his drink and drank it all in a second. Lee waits, that's not tea. Ayam shouted too late. Nene looked down in confusion. Oh, shoot, this sake was meant for the table next to you guys, my bad. Please don't tell me. I can't get in trouble for selling to a minor. Oh, shucks, we could not stay mad at someone as cute as you, Nene-san. Lee gave a big hiccup. Everyone at the table quickly took note of Lee's slurred words and 2 big red spots on his cheeks. Bushy brow, are you drunk? Naruto started laughing. This was too much. You hardly had anything. What wash that, you picking on me, punk? Naruto wasn't sure what happened. Lee had been on the other side of the table. The next thing he knew and Lee was under it and Naruto was flying from his chair. He landed painfully on his back. That will show you. Hiccup. Naruto slowly stood up. Now that hurt, alright bushy brow, we need to get you out of here. Naruto cautiously stepped closer to his teammate. Just before he could set his hand on his shoulder, Lee slithered away from his grasp. Oh, back for some more, I see. I about to give you the thrashing of a lifetime. Lee suddenly launched himself at Naruto in the most peculiar angle Naruto had ever witnessed. The young blonde found it impossible to block the blow that nailed him. This time he crashed onto the bar, breaking several glasses. Ayam screamed as she watched it happen. The combined noise caused immediate panic from all those present, and they immediately fled the restaurant, screaming the whole way. Lee, calm down, please, you have to stop this. Ayam ran up to Lee and pulled at his arm. Shop what, babe? Lee grinned eerily at her. I am just living my youth to the fullest. Are you not proud of me, Guy Sensei? Lee began spinning around with his arms up in the air. Hinata was suddenly right next to him, Byakugan active, and her fingers posed to strike a knockout point. Just before her blow connected, Lee bent completely backward at a 90-degree angle. Hinata's strike missed. Lee then rolled over and slithered in between Hinata's legs and stood up erect behind her. Ish, that you, Hinata? You want to dance? Lee grabbed her hand and spun her around. Hinata spun for several seconds before she crashed into a table. Ops. Hiccup. I am surprised you would want to dance with me. I thought you liked Naruto. Lee let out a small giggle. That does it, I'm taking you out. For Naruto shouted as they closed in on Lee from different sides. Oh, Naruto, there thou are. Lee switched to a handstand and spun around with his feet stretched out. He knocked each Naruto on the face and they all were sent crashing into a different part of the restaurant. Damn, I can't even get close to him like this. One of the Narutos growled as they all stood up. Josh Naruto, let's have a youthful sparring match. Hiccup. Lee was suddenly charging straight at one of the Narutos. Alright, that's enough. A masked ninja with white hair that Naruto didn't recognize appeared behind Lee, his thumb already pressed on the pressure point on Lee's neck. Lee collapsed to a seemingly boneless heap on the ground. "Hma, natural-born Suiken fighter, huh? Guy, you've been holding out on me," the one-eyed ninja said as he bent down and began to pick Lee up. "Hey, who the hell are you? Where are you taking my teammate?" Naruto ran up to the man. "Sorry about this, Naruto, I'm just taking him back to his place. Leave this whole mess to me, you just get those two ladies home." The ninja made a quick hand sign, then he and Lee were both gone. Naruto stared bewildered at the spot the man just left from. Who was that guy, and how did he know my name? Naruto's answer was a pained groan from Hinata. Naruto instantly forgot about the mysterious shinobi for a second. "Hinata, you okay?" Naruto ran over and helped Hinata help from the heap she was on. "Yes, I'm fine, Naruto-kun, just a little dazed." Naruto breathed a sigh of relief. He then looked over to Ayam. She looked to be in a daze as well. "Nei-chan, we gotta get out of here." Naruto held Hinata's hand as they walked up to her. Ayam paid them no mind though. "Nei-chan?" Naruto put his hand on her shoulder. Ayam snapped out of it and looked over at Naruto fearfully. "Naruto, what the heck did that man just do? Is Lee going to be okay? He won't get in any kind of trouble for this, will he?" Naruto grabbed her by the forearm and pulled her out of the restaurant as she asked her questions. They got a huge amount of questioning stares as they left and started walking down the street. "Naruto, answer me. Lee is going to be okay, right?" Ayam was starting to get frantic. She shook herself free from Naruto's grasp and stopped walking. Naruto stopped and looked back at her. "Bushy brow will be just fine, maybe a little hung over, but okay. That weird guy just knocked him out is all." I doubt he'll be punished for something like this. That guy said he would take care of him. He was a jonin, so we should trust him to keep his word. Ayame let out a breath she didn't know she had been holding. Her relief then transformed into rage. If I ever meet that Nene again, I'm going to have a couple of choice words for her. She better hope that I don't get my hands on her or there'll be hell to pay. Ayame started storming off towards her shop. Naruto watched her go, too fearful to get close to the raging woman. I think it's kind of cute, Hinata said, catching Naruto's attention. She seems bossy, but she does seem to care about Senpai in her way. Naruto chuckled. Yeah, Bushy Brow said something like that about her too. Naruto stared back at Ayame again before looking back to Hinata. I'm sorry, guess our first date got messed up, huh? Naruto did his best to smile at her. To his surprise, Hinata gave him a genuine smile back. It's okay, Naruto-kun. I enjoyed what time we had, just being with you a little is enough for me. Naruto felt himself blush at her words. Yeah, well, then, what do you say we take the long way to your house then? I'd like that. Thank you for watching. I hope you enjoyed it. Make sure to like and subscribe, and don't forget to share this video with your friends. Guys, make sure to help the author by visiting the link in the description. This is Fox Sage, and I'm signing off. Thank you for watching. I hope you enjoyed it. Make sure to like and subscribe, and don't forget to share this video with your friends. If you want early updates, check out Patreon. This is Fox Sage, and I'm signing off.